The silent collapse, every empire, whether carved in stone or built within the human spirit, begins to fall, not when it faces external attack, but when it becomes comfortable. Complacency is the slow rot of the soul, the moment when a man begins to drift, to settle for less, to forget the edge that once made him alive. It comes dressed not as an enemy, but as peace, whispering that the war is over, that it's time to rest. But that rest, if taken too long, becomes decay. Strength dies quietly. It does not vanish in a single act, but fades through 1,000 small surrenders. One missed day of discipline. One postponed goal. One compromise, justified in the name of balance. Each of these moments seems harmless in isolation, but together they weave a pattern of decline. Focus is the oxygen of purpose. When it leaks, your fire flickers. When it's gone, you mistake smoke for warmth. You begin to talk more than you act, plan more than you execute, and remember more than you imagine. You become a museum of your own potential, beautiful but lifeless. The tragedy is that complacency often feels like relief. After years of struggle, success or comfort arrives, and the mind relaxes its vigilance. The hunger that once carved your path dulls into habit. You tell yourself that you've earned a break, but the break becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes identity. Before you know it, the fire you built begins to die in its own ashes. The drift of the mind complacency begins in the mind long before it appears in behavior. It begins as a soft inner voice convincing you that you've done enough for now, that excellence can wait, that passion can be rekindled later. But there is no later in the life of focus, only momentum or decay. The mind left undirected becomes a wanderer. It seeks novelty, distraction, comfort. Every screen, every indulgence, every unnecessary argument becomes a subtle theft of life force. Focus, once sharp, begins to scatter. What was once deliberate effort becomes diluted attention. Modern life thrives on this dilution. The entire economy of attention is built to feed off your drift. Notifications, trends, endless entertainment, all designed to erode depth and amplify desire. The more you consume, the less you create. The more you chase stimulation, the less you feel fulfillment. And so the modern man must fight not a visible enemy, but an invisible pull. The pull toward fragmentation. To remain focused today is to perform an act of rebellion. It is to say, I will not let my consciousness be colonized by noise. It is to take back sovereignty over the one territory that truly belongs to you. Your attention, the architecture of decline history is full of warnings, disguised as stories. Great warriors became rulers. Rulers became kings. Kings became tyrants. And tyrants became ruins. The pattern is not fate, but psychology. Power and comfort create distance from the hunger that built them. When pain disappears, so does urgency. When urgency fades, decay begins. The same happens in every individual. Discipline without renewal turns mechanical. But comfort without purpose turns corrosive. Once you stop demanding greatness from yourself, mediocrity does not fill the gap, emptiness does. And emptiness seeks pleasure to numb itself. That's how complacency builds its architecture. One small indulgence at a time. The body grows soft. The words lose weight. The ambition that once drove you begins to feel like a memory from another life. You still talk about goals, but they sound like someone else's story. The edge dulls until even the mirror reflects a stranger. Yet beneath this decay remains a spark, the haunting awareness of what you could be if you returned to your focus. That awareness is not guilt, it's invitation. The same energy that built your strength once still waits for you to summon it. But the call must be deliberate. The world will not demand your greatness. You must. The psychology of strength. Strength is not born of comfort, but of resistance. Muscles grow by tension. Character grows by challenge. When you remove challenge, you remove growth. Complacency's most dangerous lie is that you can maintain what you do not challenge. You can't. Every system, biological or spiritual, needs resistance to stay alive. Focus is resistance against distraction. Integrity is resistance against compromise. Progress is resistance against inertia. These forces shape the individual into something resilient, deliberate, alive. But the moment you stop training resistance, the moment you choose ease over effort, the very structure of strength begins to dissolve. To live with purpose requires friction. It requires daily confrontation with the part of yourself that wants to stop. The great paradox is that peace comes not from avoiding struggle, but from mastering it. The disciplined man does not seek constant comfort. He seeks controlled fire, enough to keep his edge, enough to stay awake. Complacency is sleep disguised as peace. It sedates rather than heals. The man who seeks comfort above all will one day wake up surrounded by things, but starved of meaning. The man who chooses challenge learns that discomfort is not suffering, it's signal. It's the sound of growth. The anatomy of focus. Focus is not merely attention, it is allegiance. Whatever you focus on, you serve. You become an extension of your chosen object. Focus too long on distractions, and you become fragmented. Focus consistently on creation, and you become a force of nature. The world rewards distraction because it breeds dependency. A distracted individual can be sold, swayed, and shaped, but the focused individual becomes unpredictable, too aware, to manipulate, to present, to control. That is why the greatest power in the modern era is not wealth or fame, but sustained attention. To protect your focus, you must treat it as sacred currency. Guard it with the same intensity you'd guard your most precious possession, because it is your most precious possession. Focus decides your destiny more than talent ever could. Every hour you spend scattered is an hour stolen from mastery. Every hour you invest deliberately compounds into strength. The equation is simple. What you give your attention to becomes your life. The fire of renewal, every man must return to his fire, the place where ambition burns and apathy fears to tread. Renewal begins not with motivation, but with movement. Waiting to feel ready is the language of decline. The discipline to begin before the mood arrives. Rebuilding strength after complacency is like lighting a wet match. It takes patience, friction, and repetition. The first sparks are weak, but with persistence, the flame catches. The body responds. The mind sharpens. The will awakens. Renewal requires ritual. Wake early, move daily, study deeply, act decisively. These simple acts rebuild the architecture of discipline. You do not need massive transformation overnight. You need consistent defiance against drift. Every day you choose action over apathy. You reclaim lost ground. Soon the world begins to change, not because it actually has, but because you have. Complacency collapses when confronted by consistent effort. Action reclaims the throne from emotion. You remember what strength feels like, and that memory becomes your compass. The enemy within complacency is not external. It wears your face, speaks your language, and knows your weaknesses. In it tells you to rest a bit longer, to take tomorrow off, to indulge just once. It uses comfort as a weapon, kindness as a trap. The enemy within is persuasive. It reminds you of past effort to justify present laziness. It quotes self-care to rationalize stagnation. It congratulates you for mediocrity because mediocrity poses no threat to its existence. To defeat it, you must develop an inner witness, a voice that sees through excuses and acts anyway. This is the essence of strength, to act correctly even when it's inconvenient, to hold your standard even when no one is watching. The world does not see the battles fought in silence. The extra hour of work, the disciplined refusal of distraction, the decision to rise when comfort begs you to sleep. But those invisible victories shape destiny. Every time you choose focus over drift, you reclaim a piece of yourself. The cost of surrender, the cost of complacency is not measured in missed opportunities, it is measured in diminished essence. When you surrender focus, you surrender the very current that animates purpose. You might still live, but you no longer feel alive. You begin to sense a dullness behind your eyes, a heaviness in your chest, a fatigue that sleep cannot fix. These are not physical symptoms, but spiritual ones. They arise when potential goes unused for too long. The body knows when it's underused. The mind knows when it's undertanked. People often mistake this dullness for depression or bad luck. It is neither. It is the hunger of your own power, unexpressed. Energy, like water, must move. If not directed toward creation, it stagnates into restlessness. The cure is not comfort, but contribution. When you channel yourself into something greater, a mission, a craft, a cause, that energy finds flow again. Focus returns. Clarity reappears. You remember that meaning was never lost, it was simply buried under complacency. The discipline of greatness. Every discipline begins with self. You do not train, study, or persevere because others demand it. You do it because your future deserves it. Self-discipline is self-loyalty in action. Greatness is not a single act of brilliance, but a long obedience to purpose. It's the willingness to show up when the crowd disperses, to keep building when applause fades, to believe in invisible progress. Complacency quits when recognition disappears. Discipline builds regardless. To live this way is to commit to daily refinement. Each day, you improve one small thing, a habit, a thought, a system. Each day, you reclaim 1 inch of territory from the mediocre. Over years, these inches become miles. The difference between the exceptional and the ordinary is not intelligence or opportunity, it's consistency. The ordinary wait for passion. The exceptional build it through repetition. The ordinary seek balance. The exceptional seek alignment. The return to purpose. When you live with purpose, focus no longer feels like effort. It feels like devotion. Every task becomes a ritual of meaning. Every challenge becomes an initiation. You stop measuring success in results and start measuring it in integrity. Purpose brings clarity to struggle. Pain becomes information. Fatigue becomes feedback. Each obstacle becomes part of the architecture of strength. You no longer ask, "Why me?" But what is this teaching me? This mindset separates the masters from the masses. The master does not wait for easy conditions. He creates strength from difficulty. He treats each setback as weight for the soul, resistance training for destiny. Purpose also brings humility. You realize that your strength is not for dominance, but for stewardship. Focus is not a weapon, but a tool to build. The disciplined person serves life more deeply because he understands the cost of waste. The legacy of focus, what remains after all is said and done, is not the wealth, the fame, or the applause. It is the concentration of your spirit that you left behind in your work. Focus leaves fingerprints that time cannot erase. The world changes through individuals who refuse to scatter their attention. They built cathedrals of thought, invention, and art because they knew how to guard their energy. They did not surrender their strength to comfort or distraction. They invested it in creation. Complacency dies when met with purpose. Focus multiplies when directed by meaning. Strength becomes immortal when it serves something greater than self-preservation. So guard your focus as the ancients guarded their flame. The fire of purpose, once lit, must be fed not with grand gestures, but with daily devotion. Every moment of awareness is fuel. Every act of discipline, a spark. Epilogue: the wakeful life. To live wakefully is to live deliberately. It is to remember that every decision either strengthens or weakens your structure. The cost of complacency is not measured in days lost, but in the slow erosion of identity. Life, you were not made to drift. You were made to direct, to aim, the raw power of attention toward creation, contribution, and transformation. Every breath, every thought, every action can serve that aim. Strength is not something you find, it is something you remember each time you choose focus over ease. And when you do, the world rearranges around that decision, because the universe, in its infinite complexity, still bows to the one law that governs all creation. Now, before you go channel that incredible energy, you know the drill. Hit that like button to send a signal to the algorithm. And if you haven't yet joined the movement, smash subscribe right now. I want to know where the power is flowing from, so drop your location in the comments below. And for those deep questions and direct access, our Telegram channel is where the real growth happens. The link to join our inner circle is waiting for you in the description. Go be a force. Share this with one person who needs this fire today. Have a powerful day.